story. Could somebody text me the link to the YouTube? Or wait, isn't it bit.ly/protectpt?
So Mary can actually text you the link.
It's
Yeah,
on right now. Sorry.
and we're live right now. So hi everybody, if you're joining us for our virtual lunch hour. Hi. Hopefully we can have some really good video today. I see my screen is not that great, but this is one of the, this is like the third or fourth lunch hour that we've done. We're doing every noon, every Thursday at noon, and we have some really awesome guests today. So today we have youth leaders from around Pittsburgh, and so I would like to introduce our wonderful guests. We have Leandra Mira. She has been very well known for doing a lot of the climate strike work around Pittsburgh. And hello, Lois, for tuning in. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be able to actually see when people comment. I can pop it up on the screen, so we can see that. And then we also have Maddie Ryan. And say hi, Maddie. Just like hi. And Maddie, she's a 17-year-old student who's been striking since last summer. Leandra is 18. She's been striking since last spring, and actually helped to put together the big September 2019 strike in Pittsburgh. So we also have Marie Kessler. Say hi, Marie.
Hey.
And so Marie is an 18-year-old writer and climate activist who's been striking since fall of 2019 and being an advocate for various other causes and organizations since middle school. And so Benjamin, I don't have a bio for you. Would you mind just saying hello and telling people who you are?
Yeah, hi everybody. Sorry I joined a little last minute, but my name is Ben Guccio. I'm 17 years old. I'm a high school junior, and I help with the Fridays for Future as well. But a lot of my work is not just with climate activism, but kind of the interrelationships between that and social justice. So I do a lot with minority groups.
Great. Thanks so much for that overview. And I'm so happy you guys could all join us today. I think this is really special because, we here at Protect PT met Leandra, back last summer, almost a year. It was, I think, in June. And, we had seen some of the press that she got in the local papers. And, I saw an interview and there were only a few people there at the time. So one of our staff members, Ann, and we brought our kids down to see her. And it was
that actually.
and it was really great. And I think we kind of really formed an instant connection with you and just really loved what you guys were doing and the fact that people were coming down all the time. So we wanted to talk with you today, and actually since then so much has happened. So first, this question is for the whole group, and if you guys want to just answer one by one, or if you don't have an answer, that's okay. But how did you first get involved in climate action?
Who wants to go first?
I could go first.
Go ahead.
I guess. I mean, for me, it was kind of almost like the snowball effect, because I had been doing activism for like Ceasefire PA and a bunch of other groups, in conjunction with like other work that I was doing. And for me, like once I finally understood like the whole scope of like what we as humans were doing to our environment, like it almost felt, not to say that everything was secondary to that, but like it almost felt like that was the most important thing that I needed to be working towards to help impact what was going on and to help people understand the way that I was starting to understand that this was not okay. Like climate change is not okay. And so I kind of got connected into the whole climate activist movement through a place where I was working called 5A Elite. And they were like, hey, you should check out this girl named Leandra. You know, she kind of like does this thing where she climate strikes. And so I did. And I guess that's what I do now. So.
Great. Thanks.
Me,
Go ahead.
I feel like I've kind of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. No, you go ahead, Maddie.
For me, so I kind of like understood the urgency of climate change a while before I got into activism, and I really wanted to do something, but I just wasn't sure how to get involved. And I first got involved this summer because I saw a post with Leandra striking on social media. And like a week after I saw that post, I started coming to the strikes, and that's how I got involved with Fridays for the Future.
For me, I started, my first like official strike for Fridays for Future, I guess, was May 2019. And I remember that actually Bethany Hallam spoke there, and I remember seeing her. And that was kind of one of the big things that kind of pushed me towards it. But I kind of began then, but I'd been doing environmental work at school clubs since freshman year. And then that summer, actually, I was at kind of this peace program, like with many different countries. And one of the things that struck me is how little the Americans cared about the environment, especially in comparison with many of the other countries, whether it's in Europe or even Central, South America, and all over the world. And from that, I guess, saw the urgency from others and was kind of questioning, oh, why in the United States aren't we doing this? And kind of seeing peers my own age from around the globe, just as passionate and more passionate than myself, it kind of inspired me to bring that back to Pittsburgh. And then, of course, there's Leandra, who's our kind of Greta. And I was like, okay, so that is definitely the person I need to go to.
Sorry if you guys see me like smiling past this because my mom keeps walking back and forth. But so I'm not just like making facial expressions being insane. But I sort of started because I've always had like a really strong passion for science and for marine biology. So in high school, I was taking a lot of science electives. And when I took marine biology, I had to do this project that was about comparing your own city's pollution to cities around the world. And so I remember whenever I first started it, I was like, oh, Pittsburgh's gonna rank super well. Like I don't know of any environmental issues here, so like this is gonna be a piece of cake. Like we're gonna do so well. And then I was comparing our city to like LA or London, and I was like, wait, we actually have awful air quality for like a city of our size and even our region. We have awful air quality, and I started reading an article called The Human Toll, and it's about how in Washington County there are a lot of teenagers and children and young adults with rare cases of cancer because of the fracking and because of the pollution in Western PA. And I remember just being really upset and really angry because, you know, this is where I live, and these are issues that will now, you know, live with me for the rest of my life, and I'll never be able to, like, I guess, undo or unlive all the years of like breathing this air and drinking this water. And I was completely unaware of my surroundings and the health of my surroundings, I guess, because you know you're only as healthy as your environment. And so I had been hearing about what Greta was doing on social media, and then I remember it was like very, very fast. It was not me planning it. It was like randomly one Friday in May, I woke up and I was like, I'm gonna take the train downtown, and I made this sign this morning, and I'm gonna take the train. I'm gonna sit, and I posted on my Instagram, and I was like, if anyone wants to come sit with me, you can. No one did. But then a couple weeks later, the Pittsburgh the Pittsburgh City paper reached out, and that was whenever I did my first piece. Sorry, I'm getting like a bad air, I guess. But yeah, so that was how I started.
Great. Thanks, everyone. So, I think that, so my kids were there with you guys and Leandra at the climate strike. And Anne's on here with tech support. And would you mind going to the next screen? There we go. So this is one of the images. Mark Dixon from Blue Lens took some amazing images. So thank you, Mark, that we're going to display right now. So this is one of the images that is from the march and the climate strike back in September. So, I think that this kind of goes to the building of a movement, and we were planning this climate strike with Leandra and really trying to kind of bring to life her vision of what she wanted for the climate strike, because we felt like, as adults, we don't want this to be about adult efforts. We want this to be about her and her efforts and you guys and your efforts. And so when you're talking about, kind of building this movement around climate action here in Pittsburgh, what are some things that inspired you, and what are some things that really made it take off from your perspective?
I'll go first because I have an answer to this. I think that what inspired me actually was working with groups like Protect PT. You guys were like constantly giving unconditional like love and support, and it just made me want to continue. I think that if I had been working with groups who were like very cynical or didn't know what they were talking about and didn't have any good advice, I would have probably given up. Or if not having given up, I don't think that that strike would have been as large or as successful as it was. I think that it was very much so like a group effort, and it took a village. And you had a second part of the question. It was like for building movements in Pittsburgh. What was it? Sorry, I'm forgetting.
Yeah. So what were some things that that you kind of noticed that really built the movement in Pittsburgh? Some kind of maybe points that you noticed that changed?
Mm-hmm. So for that, I think my answer may be different from other climate activists, but and other maybe like people who are progressive but not necessarily in organizing work. I think that it was continuous organizing that is what's the key to a movement. I think that having like as important as a weekend marches or as like a really big beautiful festival is in for Earth Day or for whatever holiday, everyone goes home and you may have planted a really important seed in their mind for them to continue to think about how they can make lifestyle changes or how they can make choices when they vote to vote for things that they believe in. But I don't think that that one day every year or twice a year is going to incite the necessary revolutionary change that we need. I think that that constant and continuous organizing is what made that strike so large and what has continued to make our Friday strikes like constantly having a couple dozen people. Because I think that it's important to like every Friday or any day or whatever movement you're doing, it's that constant reminder and that constant pressure of like, we're not going to drop this topic. We want you to address this. We want you to discuss this. And, in last fall, after this strike, maybe 3 weeks after, Mayor Peduto then released his statement on the ethane cracker plan. And he had never done that before after years of pressure. And yes, it was a little bit late, but I think that it was partially that like people sitting outside of almost like his home, like his office, and just constantly having signs and reminding him and even like starting discussions with him as he was walking up those stairs from a meeting or wherever he was coming from, if he was coming from lunch. Like our strikers would like speak to him and start conversations with him and say, we want you to talk about this, we want you to do this. So I think that striking, I think that political action, I think that civil disobedience is very, very important for a movement. And I think that, you know, as many students as they want can say, well, I'm just going to go to college for political science and become a senator, and that will be how I make change. Or I'll go to college for climate science, and that will be how I make change. Like, I won't strike, but I think for me that's the key is organizing and continuing to organize. That was a long answer. Sorry.
No, I think that was really good, and I want everybody else to have a chance to respond. But really quick, I had a couple kind of follow-up questions, um, and one is like, um, you know, I was at the same like convention that you were, I think, when Mayor Peduto said, kind of really spoke out about the cracker plant for the first time. And I think we were all really like shocked that that happened, and elated at the same time. And at that same event, you know, I was like at lunch with people afterward, and we were all like, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to like take action to make sure that change is made. And so like, I think later we can kind of talk about what are some things that youth can do, and what are other things that, like, you know, parents can do to really help the youth make that change. But kind of just maybe sit with that a little bit, and we can come back to it after everyone else answers.
For me, at least, I think in terms for inspiration, I guess I have two main ones. One, I guess, is a little cliche, that being of kind of the transcendentalist. So I remember sophomore year, I had to do American literature, and kind of learning about like Thoreau and Emerson and reading their work. I kind of was just like looking into it. And it was like, well, for one, I'm learning this in school. So in theory, it's supposed to be useful and help me, but kind of from those texts and what I saw and what I learned is that kind of the importance of the environment, and that it's not just something that we live on. It's, you know, it's something that is more than that, that helps us, that we help it, that so many things are interconnected. Um, so kind of seeing the scale that it is in, and kind of how small I am compared to it, was definitely one of the big inspirations for me, for seeing, you know, you do have to protect it. We don't survive without it, and something has to be done. And then the second thing was at the program that I was at, I was one of the older kids. I was actually kind of the junior leader to these 11-year-olds, and seeing these young kids, kind of most of them, many terrified of what would happen, what the future holds, made me think realistically about the numbers and the amount of time that, you know, there is left before things are irreversible. And there isn't much time, really not much at all. And kind of that, once I saw the numbers and really saw, you know, wow, like there's so little time, it really was more of an incentive for me to then kind of go and really push forward. Um, in terms for, I guess, the movement growing for that second part, I think just for a simple answer, one of the biggest things that I've seen is definitely the fact that it is more youth led now. That, you know, for years there's been previous kind of climate kind of strikes and eras in which people would strike, but now it's mainly with young people, and I think that that's really interesting and helpful, because it allows people kind of without a vote to have their voice heard. And then even more, it kind of shows adults, you know, that, you know, we're kids, but we're the ones who are going to have to inherit these problems. So I think that that is one of the things that really sparked this movement as a whole.
I think really what inspired me to start striking and get involved in this movement is just the numbers and the science, and honestly being scared, reading how we really do not have much time on a clean earth left, and like the fact like our oceans will be clear of fish by like 2048, at the rate we're going, and just seeing the number of children and people affected by the poor air quality in Pittsburgh. Like developing asthma and the rare cancers that Leandra was talking about. I think honestly, just fear has driven me to continue with this movement, and caring for other people and seeing like young children at these strikes. Like, I care about them. I want them to have a future, and I think that's what's really driven the youth to be involved too, because they see this in their future. It's easier for us to see that, oh, this is really going to affect us. We're going to be here when all of these problems start to occur. And like movement wise, I think in Pittsburgh, like the September 20th strike is, I don't know if you guys would agree, but when we really started to gain attention, and even though we didn't really gain momentum with the strikes, I think that's when everyone started to know like who we are. Like you said, a few weeks after, that's when Bill Peduto started talking about the cracker plant. And I think persistence is important, and I think that's the most important thing, is the fact, or is like keeping the numbers up and striking every Friday and showing them we're not giving up.
I mean, I definitely agree that persistence is key. Just because I don't really have much to say on that part, but I guess what inspires me most to keep being persistent, kind of going off of, I guess, the first half of the question, is like I teach elementary and middle school, well, mostly elementary school students at an organization called the Pittsburgh Project, during both their after school and summer programs. Right now they're not in session, but what inspires me is them, because I'm given an opportunity to teach them, hey, this is what's happening. And I'm also able to do it in a way, in an environment that they feel safe in, that they feel like as if like they feel like they can be exploratory and still be like a child in. And I'm able to like teach them things that I wouldn't normally be able to teach if I hadn't had that opportunity. And the way that they understand and are able to like put into words certain concepts that seem so big, but they're able to like make it so personal, is very inspiring. And it gives me hope that, you know, like when they're a bit older and able to decide for themselves to be politically active, that they will be, instead of just sitting on the sidelines. So
Thank you all. I think that was awesome. And I just want to recap, because I find that like you guys have so many great takeaways that I want to share, just kind of recapping what everybody said, because I like this. So this is really actually inspiring for us adults to hear all this stuff come out of you guys. And it's inspiring when I see my kids be involved too as a parent. So I want to thank you for not only inspiring my kids, but inspiring me as well. But like some of the things that I got out of what you guys just said was that, number one, there's not much time, that you're inspired by other people, that you want to care for people, which I think is really important, that teaching others inspires you, and that, you know, I think that like that is really awesome to hear from your generation and kids of your age, because you know, you guys are the next voters. You guys are the people that are going to be voting, either, you know, can vote now or will be voting in a couple years, and the people that will be the leaders when my kids are your age. So, you know, thinking about that, it's really inspiring for us adults to have people like you as leaders, especially in this movement where we don't have a lot of time, because, you know, we're like at Protech PT, we're fighting every day, and we've been fighting for the past 5 years. And so we're fighting fossil fuel extraction in our community, and it's taken 5 years and we're still not done. So this is a long fight. And so, it sometimes does get really, stale, and it does get really, kind of redundant trying to fight the same thing over and over again. But then we meet people like you guys who are kind of like doing it now and trying to make change now, and it just inspires us to keep moving, and being the parent leaders, being the older leaders to try to help you guys. And so I think that so from your perspective, and I think this is kind of goes back to something that Leandra said in the beginning, what are those things that you think have to happen in order for that change to be made? And just think about that a minute. And I want to mention that we have a photo here, and this was a really cool. So these are two photos from the climate strike in September, which was really awesome. I was there with my son who spoke, and I turn around, and Leandra and I and others had been planning for, I don't know, weeks before that, months before that. And we were like, oh, it'd be great if a couple hundred people showed up. And then I turned around and there's like 1,000 people in the streets, and it was really amazing. And it took a lot of work. And, Leandra just did a crazy amount of work trying to get everything together. And some of you spoke at the event. Benjamin, I remember you speaking and how wonderful that was. And so I just wanted to show people these two pictures because I think it like highlights the scale. So the one picture was something that Leandra's friend, a picture her friend took from inside the city county building. You can see the archway of the window of like the mass scale of the crowd, which I thought was really awesome. We like shut the whole street down. And then the next picture is one of the pictures from the march after the actual rally. And just like the amount of people that were in the streets marching, my kids included. And I just think that looking at these images and kind of looking back will hopefully help us to like think about the next big event we can do to make this happen again. So go ahead to the next screen, Anne, because this is Benjamin, this is you talking. So when you saw that crowd, what did you think? Like, did you think that many people would show up, and were you nervous talking?
Yeah, no, completely. I also, like you guys, were very much kind of like, I didn't know how many people would show up. My guess at the time, I believe, was something around like 500 was my hope. Like that was the goal. And I remember I practiced with Leandra before I went on, and I was kind of freaking out. And I saw more and more people come and come and come. And then by the time I actually kind of got to the middle, and I remember Paul called my name, and I kind of stood in front of there, I was terrified because there were so many people I didn't know also, at a lot of kind of things where I've either spoken or done stuff. It's been like parents or friends that show up, people that, really care, and seeing people that I didn't even know at that scale kind of terrified me. Kind of surprisingly, while I was speaking, I don't remember much because I was so scared while it was happening that I kind of was just like going, and I was trying to like do everything that I thought about and practice, and I was loving it in the moment. But then when it had finished, I was like, oh wait, what just happened? Because it was like this thing, I was in immediate shock. It was scary. Like after you say one thing, like the crowd starts applauding, and it's like, oh, like this is happening. But then I remember after, it felt really good, and I was like almost amazed that that thing happened. But I remember it was kind of, for me, one of my favorite moments because, as I mentioned before, my work is not just with kind of climate activism, but with the intersectionality between different kind of areas. So I spoke on kind of the injustice of climate change. And what I kind of push forward most of the time is the social justice aspect of it. So for me, it was almost like a dream come true to be able to speak both on the climate effects, and then also how it affects people socially, and the inequality of the country and the world as a whole. But, yeah.
Thanks for that. And one thing that I was thinking about when you were talking is like how brave it was to get up and talk in front of that many people. It takes a lot of bravery. So thank you guys for that and for putting that together.
Can I just say though, Jillian, your son did amazing. I was so nervous for him and Anne's little one because I was like, oh no, like they aren't super young, but they're young, and like I was just nervous that because I did not think that it was going to be that large. I thought that it was going to be maybe 100 or 200 people. The most we had ever gotten for a strike had been 25. And I remember Sarah and I the night before, and I was like, I think it's going to be 100, 150. And she was like, it's going to be a lot more than that. Like, she was the one who was overestimating it, and I was underestimating it. But when I looked out into the crowd, I was like, will Jillian's will her little one and will Anne's little one be able to do it? But they did, and they were amazing. And they spoke really important words that day. So yeah, thank you for having them there.
I think also really quickly, just to add on to Leandra's, and something that I want to emphasize for people watching, just anybody who hears this later, is that, it kind of goes to show, for me, that was my first time speaking in front of a lot of people. There are these young kids being able to speak, and I think sometimes people have this idea that, to get involved with activism and advocating for certain things, you have to kind of fit these boxes or, be at this certain level. But really, we're all kind of just people, we're all teenagers. And I think that that's something to emphasize is, it takes one person to kind of stand out of their comfort zone. And, Marie said, it kind of snowballs after that. Once you do one thing, you start to get more and more confidence. But it really starts with kind of standing out of your comfort zone. And it's not hard, but it's not easy either. It's this weird thing that you really have to kind of do, but I think it's tangible for many people our age and older, younger as well. So that's just something I wanted to emphasize, is that you don't have to kind of fit this box or be perfect to be an activist, because none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes, but that's how we learn.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really good point, Benjamin, because me as a mom starting this organization, I didn't start this organization because I didn't, to be honest, I didn't have a lot of awareness about environmental issues until it happened to me and my family. So, and then as the environmental importance of what we were doing grew, it also grew into my knowledge of an understanding of social justice issues and how climate justice and social justice are so tied together. And so I find that I'm a very different person. And so you think about adults, and you think about maybe the fact that we've done things in our lives, and I guess I couldn't have told you 6 years ago that I would be the person that I am now. And so every opportunity to either speak or every opportunity to do something that impacts, whether it's very small or whether it's very large, has a bigger impact overall, and actually changes the person, makes them a different person. Because I can tell you I'm a very different person than when I first started this. I care about different things that I didn't really care about before. As a young mom, what I cared about most was my kids, making sure there was food on the table, making sure that they were happy and healthy. And then when they got older, and actually they were very young when we had an air quality issue in our house, which is kind of why this all started. And then when we learned about a fracking pad, I immediately thought, what is that going to impact my kids? How is that going to hurt them? And so I was a very unlikely activist, and I don't know if I even sometimes consider myself an activist, but I am so happy to be in that group with you guys, with the youth that are doing it now, and we want to really encourage you guys to keep doing what you're doing, because Leandra we had kind of posed the question earlier, what will make that larger impact? And so I want to hear from all of you to see what your answer to that is. But I just want to acknowledge that the work that you're doing is making an impact slowly. It might not seem like it's a large impact right now because there hasn't been a huge change, but it is making an impact, and it is inspiring others to do so as well.
Who wants to go first? Because I feel like I spoke first the last time, so it has to be Maddie or Marie. You guys have to go.
I already spoke first.
Okay, but like we have to like have some sort of like seesaw, like a balance.
Oh.
Maddie, do you want to go?
Can you repeat the question one more time? I'm sorry.
She was asking what has to be done, sort of, or what our goals are to be done, and sort of like she was acknowledging that we're making an impact, but it may not be seen immediately. But I guess like now I'll ask, what are your hopes of what will be done? It can be like statewide, it can be nationwide, or it can be globally. Like what do you want to happen?
Well, like if we're talking basics, I want clean air. I want clean soil. I just want, like, I just think it's disgusting that our government is choosing profit over the health of our children, of the people in Pittsburgh, and I just think that needs to stop. I just think that we need to make health in Pittsburgh a priority over wealth, and because that's the main thing that makes me mad is so many children are being negatively affected by the runoffs of fracking and drilling, and I don't know. I don't stand for it. And I hope that our striking can hopefully put an end to it.
I guess I can go next. I guess my hope, and this sounds really insane, and obviously I'm not gonna single-handedly do this, but I hope that if not Pittsburgh, then people who are like in cities like Pittsburgh, that we like there's a shift in mindset and attitude where we don't feel like we have to depend on fracking to maintain some semblance of what we used to be or something like that, which I feel like that's why Pittsburgh and like surrounding counties are feel like they have to be so dependent on fracking and all of the harmful things that come with it, because honestly there is no excuse for what fracking has, like the human and health toll that fracking has on people. Like that is, it's disgusting to say what Maddie said, but I hope that like Pittsburgh and Pittsburghers understand that we don't have to keep doing like the same old thing, that there is more opportunity in sustainability than there is in fracking and fossil fuels. I guess that's my big hope. It's specific, but yeah.
I sum up. So for me, I actually I spoke about this at the march in December, or the strike in December whenever I spoke. But I think for me, one of the biggest goals and one of the things that I think is most important is education, as I said before, because I think one of the big issues we see today, especially in the United States with climate change, is that a lot of people are just ignorant to the science and to the kind of facts that are in it. And that's not necessarily bad. I mean, I think for all of us, we were all ignorant at a time. We didn't kind of know a lot about it, but we were lucky enough or able enough to do research, learn about it. But kind of speaking nationally, but more specifically for Pennsylvania, we're a state that actually has one of the oldest scientific standards in the country. It's actually from the 90s. So we haven't updated the public schooling scientific curriculum since the 90s for the entire state. Meaning, and one of the big issues is because to do so, a lot of science classes would then have to teach climate science. So our state government is refusing to actually change the scientific standards, but what then that leads to is an entire state, Pennsylvania, which is also a swing state, we're important for the nation, but for all of the public schools and all of the kids that go there, they're either not learning at all about climate change, or there isn't a set curriculum to have it taught. So there's so much either misinformation about it or just lack thereof. So I think for me, and I guess Pittsburgh, but Pennsylvania as a whole, is to push our representatives and our people in power to kind of make that change, protest, and make sure that we can teach the youth, everybody around the state and the country as a whole, about climate change and climate activism. Because once you know, again, you can't unknow. And that is oftentimes a very big incentive for people.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? I just want to point out too, I think that's a really good point about updating the curriculums in our schools. Scientists have known about climate change since like the 70s. I mean, they have known. So, you know, if they should have been putting this into the curriculum when I was in school. So just want to point that out. You know, when I was in school in the 80s, like I should have been learning about this. I should have known more about it. You know, but I didn't. That's not something that was taught. We have a really great question from one of our viewers, Jay Walker. He asks if you guys have heard about the 0 Hour Pittsburgh Youth Climate March in the summer of 2018. So just want to ask that. And so it was like 10 years, 10 years, maybe I should have updated the photo of me from high school. So, do you guys know about that 0 Hour Pittsburgh Climate March?
I did not know about that, no. But if Jay wants to text me more info about it, he can.
He says, I want to hear some hot takes about Pennsylvania politics when it comes to our obsession with extraction.
I think, it's not a hot take. Like, it's just or is hot take like an opinion? I guess I would say like just a fact of it is politicians just like are getting paid off to have these stances. Sorry, my dad has a tortilla chip bag, that have the stances and make the policies and laws that they make. So it isn't a coincidence that like these same people also are getting, $10,000 from the Marcellus Shale Group. And I also think that I mentioned this at a panel that I was at months ago because I was asked a question about like, what do you say to politicians who don't believe in climate change? But I honestly don't really think that there are politicians who genuinely don't believe that climate change exists. I think that the continuing to debate its existence is just giving them more time to continue to profit off of the money that they're making from fracking and fossil fuel extraction. So I guess my hot take about it is like, stop allowing them to even make the stance of like, I need more scientific information, and just like stop giving them that time, or even like that one day at a council meeting where they bring it up because, they don't actually believe that it's not happening. They don't actually believe that it doesn't exist. They're sort of just using that as a way to like have another couple years of getting paid off by these huge oil and gas groups.
I think kind of going off of that, something else in terms for the politics side of climate change, especially in Pennsylvania, one of the big issues, and this is kind of nationally also, is just a lack of competitive elections. So in short, basically what that is that we have a lot of districts, regions, areas that oftentimes have a person running and they've been in office for, let's say, 20, 30 plus years. And that these districts are so solidified, look at the people who make them, that, there's no competition of who's going to win. It's already known the one person there is always going to win. And what that then can lead to is this either having one person forever who doesn't change their ideas, or two, if you look at the campaign financing laws, that, you know, a lot of these people, the money that they care about is from PACs, from lobbyists, from different areas that aren't actually the people that they represent. So I think that's something definitely to look to, is seeing just the lack of competitive elections. But luckily now there is kind of this grassroots movement that's coming, especially in Pittsburgh. So you can see that with like Olivia Bennett, you can see that with Bethany Hallam, and there's a bunch of kind of new politicians in Pittsburgh that are grassroots coming up, and not 30 years. I love, yeah, great example.
Like Kincaid.
Exactly.
I guess my hot take would be kind of something along the lines of what I said earlier. Is that like our like this economic growth thing, like tying climate change to the economy, it makes a good argument for people who are like more thinking about like the profit side of things, I guess is the best way, like and more of like, how will this affect my bottom dollar sort of thing. But I think that ultimately tying climate change to the economy and only tying it to that is dumb, because like at the end of the day, you have no economy if there's nothing to like base it off of. If you have no resources that are viable to create an economy, then why? Because like if your planet is destroyed, you have no resources to do anything. So therefore there is no economy. So trying to debate whether or not destroying or banning fracking, which we should be doing, is good or not good for the economy is kind of dumb, because it's destroying like human lives and just resources ultimately.
But then tying that into the economy too is like, if everyone in a community is sick, their medical bills and like just like it outweighs the money that's made from that fracking. I guess I didn't explain that in a very intelligent way, but it made sense.
I know what you mean. Everyone just sees like the surface level, like short-term profit. They don't, I think,
like
really look into the negative effects, how all of these fossil fuels are going to run out, how like our economy is not going to be able to last forever running on energy like this. They just think profit and short-term effects.
Yeah, like last night I watched this documentary on PBS, and it's The Molecule That Made Us, and it's about water. And I knew about water scarcity and like droughts and flooding and how that's tied to climate change, but it was just terrifying because it was pretty much saying in the next like 15 years, I think it was in the next 10 years, 30 or 40% of the world's population like will not have access to water for most of the year, and like will not have access to drinking water for most of the year. And I think that then tying that to what Ben said about education, if more people understood how wasteful fracking really is and how wasteful the oil and gas industry really is, they would treat water like oil, and they would treat water like gas, and we wouldn't like uphold this industry as like king. Like we would sort of start to understand, okay, it wastes so much water, it hurts our communities, it makes everyone sick, it isn't a sustainable form of energy, like at some point it will run out. And in doing all of this damage, like we're also just completely uprooting natural cycles that have been occurring for millennia. I think that if people sort of understood that, and understood that like you can't just continue to take and take and take and take from our planet and just always have like resources, it's pretty terrifying. But I think, like what Ben said, if more people were educated on it, they would sort of begin to understand like, wait, I actually don't want to continue using this form of energy that like uses so much water, and then that water turns into like radioactive waste.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think that's the main like everything is rooted, like Ben said, like education among the public, because they don't understand what their politicians are doing. They don't understand the urgency of everything. So
also,
yeah,
sorry.
you can go. Sorry. lot.
I mean, like, also kind of like onto that, like, the fossil fuel industry is so heavily subsidized, like, and like, I'm 18, like, why should my taxpayer money go towards subsidizing something that's ultimately killing my community? Like, that should not, okay.
And like our immigration crisis here in the United States is actually mostly a lot due to water scarcity. You know, for the past 10 years, there's been wars all over Latin America about water. You can look at, you know, Bolivia and their huge wars, you know, 5, 10 years ago, continuing to happen. That, you know, areas around the globe are actually running out of water, you know, that there is none left. You look at the Middle East, you know, and the issues that they have, a lot of it from water, because these countries just no longer have the means to live. And, you know, if there's a will, there's a way, and people will always immigrate to a place where they can live. You know, so by contributing to climate change, you also contribute to this immigration crisis. So sometimes for me, a lot of the times I'm kind of confused as to, you know, why our government doesn't, you know, take into the fact of climate change, because, you know, they complain so much about the immigration crisis, but in fact, you know, the restrictions and the lack thereof on, you know, fossil fuel industries in the United States has led to this surplus and increase in immigration.
Yeah, so I'm hearing this is a really awesome conversation, because what I'm hearing is that, you know, the economy would actually be better if we focused on how to conserve resources, how to use the resources we have responsibly, instead of using resources for something like, you know, like the resource of water. You know, California has a huge water scarcity problem. There's a lot of, you know, the United States that has a water scarcity problem. Yet we have companies like Nestle that are not only like making plastic bottles to then bottle water to sell to people, and then and that water is then, you know, it needed by families, because that's the only water source that they have, because the fracking industry came in and destroyed their water source. So it's almost like they're creating a problem that only they can solve, in order to make money on the problem, and the problem makes the money too. So I think, and then the healthcare industry, I think that, um, so Leandra has to run and grab a phone charger. She'll probably be back on with us in a minute. But the healthcare industry also, you know, we have a lot of people that are really sick in southwestern PA, and those sick people are allowing the healthcare industry to grow, and make money. And so I think that these are all things that we need to consider. Um, One question that we had, was, what kind of social media do you guys use? Like, what's your preferred social media for people to get in touch with you? Either people that want to help you, or people that want to get in touch with you because maybe they want to be a part of the next climate strike, or a part of the next, big event. How can people get in touch with you?
Our main social media account that we use is our Instagram. Do you want me? I can type it in the chat,
Sure.
maybe.
And we also have a Twitter. Is it the same as the Instagram handle? I think it might be different.
I'll look at it. I don't think we don't really use it as much though, right?
I know,
Sorry.
but it is pretty active though. So, because like I know some people only use Twitter. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
we use Twitter. It's different from our Instagram. It's FFF Pittsburgh. Our Instagram is Fridays for Future PGH, and our Facebook is Fridays for Future PGH. So there it is.
Awesome.
What is the Twitter? FFFPGH.
Yeah. So yeah, we do need to like get. I think that that's my goal for this quarantine is get better at social media usage. I hate using social media, so I like avoid it. But it is the best way to communicate with people who want to get involved. So yeah, I think that as a team, like we have to think of ways to maybe like have almost like a sisterhood of the travel can type thing, where like every week one of us is in charge of it.
Yeah.
I
We
think
are active on our Instagram though, so if like someone DMs us or asks us questions, you'll probably get a response almost immediately.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
and also if you like want to talk to us individually, I think most of us, our Instagrams are also our names on this. So if you want to, let's say, like just DM Leandra, you can just put in the like box Leandra Mira and she'll pop up. I don't know for anybody else, but
My Instagram is at fly
Mint unicorn.
It's kind of embarrassing.
You can never change it. Like I won't let you change it.
Like I can't change it anymore. Like like that's it. But
It's not her that is keeping that username. It's because we won't let her change it. We're like keeping her hostage.
Leandra's giving me the orders.
Sorry.
So guys, we have a couple minutes left, and I want to say a couple things. And Lois, who is one of our newest board members, hi Lois, thanks for tuning in. She says that listen to the Green New Deal candidates like Jerry Dickinson, who's running for Congressional People District 18. So she wanted to point that out. This boomer has to get hip on Instagram, is what she says. She wants to go on Instagram.
Just text me. Like, just text me. I'll give you lessons. I'll tell you the best angles. Like, don't worry about it. By the end of quarantine, you'll be so good at it.
Leandra has the best Instagram.
Yeah.
I need to get better at it.
And thank you guys for posting this this virtual talk on your Instagram. And I hope that people then will rewatch it over and over again, because you guys have so many good things to say that I think that if a lot of the youth that are maybe thinking about getting involved and don't know how to, or maybe just don't know what to do, they could contact you. And then really quick before we get off, I want to, Anne, if you can go ahead to the next slide. I know she's probably sticking in there. So we actually just celebrated our 5th anniversary. We started out 5 years ago in April because there were 2 well pads proposed in my neighborhood. Now there are 12. And I got to say, in 5 years, 12 have been proposed, but 2 have been built. So I feel like we are doing a lot to make sure that happens. And hopefully that if we can really make sure that these well pads don't get built, then so many more people will be healthier. So many more people will have more resources like water resources. But we are doing a big membership drive this month, and part of that is giving some stuff away. So for new members, we're actually going to be, it's on our website, which is on here, just protectpt.org/membership. I want to show you guys one thing that we're giving away, a fire tablet for people that become members in our membership campaign. We also have an Echo to give away. And we want to thank our member. We had actually, these were donated by a member who is just a really fabulous supporter. So people in your neighborhood can make a huge difference. And that's something that I think that is another takeaway. Like, you guys in your neighborhood are making a difference. You're making a difference around the Pittsburgh region. And so if everyone can, band together and help each other out, I think a larger impact can be made. We also have thank you to Patagonia for providing this awesome duffel bag, this Patagonia duffel bag that we also have part of our membership. And I know that everyone's like really stressed right now because of COVID-19. I just want to put that out there. We have to become a member, it's like you can do $5 a month. So it's not a huge, toll for people sometimes, and if you can't become a member, you can by donating, you can also volunteer your time. And then, Anne, if you can go to the next slide, please. Next week, we're going to be here next week. So I hope you guys that are guests this week can join us next week as well, because we're going to be talking about some of the legal issues surrounding the things that we've been doing. And Fair Shake is going to be here talking about some of the things that they deal with the petrochemical build out, not only in Pennsylvania, but they also do wonderful work in Ohio and West Virginia. And we're all kind of tied together by this petrochemical hub that's trying to be built in our area. And that's something that I want to really acknowledge. And then if you go to the next slide. So every Thursday, we're going to be doing this, like every Thursday at noon. We're going to try to do YouTube, because we wanted to make sure that like there were no barriers for people. Like if they weren't on Instagram or if they weren't on Facebook, like they could still, join us and have access to the content. And then I see Marie getting excited. I hope you guys join us on May 27th. We are going to be joined by Eliza Griswold, the author of Amity and Prosperity. I have like lots of things here that sections of the book that I'm reading right now that we're going to talk about. This book really resonates with the struggles that we have directly in our community, and that I think that we have as a state. If you haven't read this book, you need to read it. And actually on our website, you can see the link here to sign up is right here. So please sign up, and then some links to get the book. So if you don't have the book right now, these are bookstores that are, many of them, the first three are independent bookstores here in Pennsylvania. Most of the first two here in Pennsylvania, one in Harrisburg and one here in Pittsburgh. And so, we want to support local businesses. They have the book in stock to send to you, so they can send that book to you. I just checked today to make sure everyone had the book in stock. There's also ways, like if you can't afford the book right now, there's also ways to get it from the library. We're going to be posting all of that on our Facebook and all of that on our webpage, so people have access to it. You could do audiobook as well, but we're going to have a really awesome conversation. It's going to be very similar to this, where we're going to have just a conversation with Eliza, where people can ask questions. So we want people to get questions ready. And, I hope you guys can join us and, really keep the conversation going, because it's going to take, people like you and people that help out with Protect PT and volunteer their time, and people that go to rallies, and people that maybe see this and think, what can I do in some small way to help out? It's going to take us all to make a difference in the long run. So guys, thank you so much for being here. This was really great. I'm so thrilled, and you guys inspired me so much to keep working. So I want to thank you so much for being here. And any last words in the last couple minutes?
I'm halfway through this book right now, actually, so I'm going to join. This is actually like I'm
I have not had a chance to like acquire this book like quickly, because I can't read online. But like I'm just like excited. So, like I might just buy this book and read it in time.
Yeah, so that's why we're advertising it now. So hopefully people have a chance to read the book. And so City of Asylum is right here in Pittsburgh. Small independent bookstore, and they have this book. So you can go online and buy it, and you should receive it, 7 to 10 days, and start reading the book. It's also available on like Amazon, on Audible. So if you're like me, I'm a really slow reader, you can do the audiobook as well. So definitely get the book. Join us on the 27th. And Leandra, I just want to say, like last year when we met you, we just didn't know what a force you were, like what a force we were meeting. And we want to thank you guys so much for continuing to do the work that you're doing. And we're just really excited that you could be here today. You guys changed the work that we do at Protect PT, because, if it weren't for us being involved in the climate strike, then, these the thinking about the youth and how you guys are impacting us, and how we can teach you what we have to know. We have like such knowledge to give, and we're really happy to give that knowledge, because that knowledge is going to help you, and then you guys give us knowledge too. Just this conversation was just so knowledgeable for anybody that was watching. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and check out our website and our Facebook page, and I hope you guys can join us again. So thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
everything.
you.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.